This is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief Sierra 117, with a shout out to the Xbox Expansion Pass. Keep your heads up during this time of isolation. Stay positive. Play some games. Most importantly, finish the fight. Thanks for listening to XEP. Master Chief, out.
Welcome one, welcome all to episode 133 of the Xbox Expansion Pass. I am your host, Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost. In this episode, we're joined by actor Jon McLaren, the voice of Star-Lord from Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, on to discuss his career, the success of the game, and future projects. Enjoy. Yet another week of gaming is upon us and behind us. Welcome to XEP, discussing all things in the Gamerverse as they pertain to the Xbox ecosystem. And as I am wont to do each and every week, we like to start the show by offering words of kindness to those who have made my gaming week better. And this week, the words of kindness are extended to my guest, a superhero in his own right, Star-Lord himself, Mr. Jon McLaren. How are you, sir?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm so excited to have you on here. We were talking prior to hitting recording. You and I are mutual Halo fans.
Oh yeah,
so cool, so cool. You of course play Star-Lord in the Guardians of the Galaxy game.
I do.
You've had the unfortunate pleasure of having to be on the Trophy Room of PlayStation podcast. I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay, man. Those guys are the worst, aren't they?
Right? Yes.
Like
thank
the
you.
Absolute.
Yes, you get it. You get it. Kyle's okay, but Joe, honestly, one of the worst human beings.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
that was my first impression before I even heard him speak. I was just like, wow.
Yeah. He's
There's a vibe of horribleness to you.
There you go. See, already we're off to a good start, and I
love the healthy Xbox versus PlayStation, the age-old battle.
Yeah.
And it transcends to podcasting.
Oh, it does. And the irony is, John, whenever people that don't know us, they'll like jump in and be like, hey, that's really wrong. You guys shouldn't talk about that. Like, leave the moms out of it. Joe and I played games together almost every day.
Oh yeah.
Almost every day.
Yeah.
But we ham it up over on Twitter, and it's always funny to see.
I can't wait for Joe's I'm just waiting for a tweet from Joe being like, I hate you, John.
That's
so
right.
much.
And it's okay to tell him back that, like, well, you hate him too, because he is the worst.
Yeah. Hate, but like love, but really hate.
Absolutely. Well, Star-Lord, I am all ready to pick your brain about the process of becoming Star-Lord himself and whatnot. And I'm sure we're going to talk probably a little bit of Halo love in the back end. But
yeah,
let's start off, man, introducing you and your background to the listeners. Prior to being Star-Lord, where did you work in entertainment?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of came up through the film and television scene. I started when I was about 15 years old. I grew up in a kind of a smaller town outside of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And so I kind of started there doing as much as the city offered at the time. But really my background was in film, TV, and I had done, some voice stuff here and there, never quite at the level of full performance motion capture like the Guardians, but I've dabbled with voice all along the way. But then I hit Guardians, and then that was kind of the full blown motion capture, facial voice experience. But yeah, I have predominantly film and television actor coming up.
Gotcha. Cool. And Guardians, of course, came out last year. When were the auditions? How far in advance were you auditioning for the role?
Oh, this was a few years ago. I think from probably initial auditions to game release was probably a 4-year span, roughly.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, I remember we auditioned, and then it was quite the process. Like, we auditioned, and then we didn't hear anything for like probably close to 6 months, which is the worst feeling ever when you really want the role.
Yep.
Thanks,
Yep.
Eidos. No. But yeah, it was just like 6-month waiting period before we really heard anything back. And then we kind of went in for some, I call it like proof of concept testing. Like it was a bit of a process. You audition, and we came in, did a proof of concept, and that had to be kind of approved both by the powers at Eidos, then Square, and then of course Marvel themselves had to give the okay. So it was a bit of a process to kind of go through those different levels, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Was it odd or I mean, I'm sure it was odd and exciting, but like in the idea of working with Marvel, what did that do to your psyche there?
Oh, it messed it right up. No, it's tough because it's like, it's not tough, but like, I mean, we went into the audition, and for one, like we weren't told explicitly that it was a Guardians of the Galaxy video game. A lot of times in video games, as I'm sure you know, it's heavily shrouded in mystery and code names, and even the audition script that we got was code naming. Like it didn't say Star-Lord or Gamora on it. It was all, I think my character's name in the script was Captain Jones.
Captain Jones.
I was thinking Captain Jones or Captain Johnson or.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I was thinking like Star Chief. You know what I mean? Like
no, it wasn't even like even remotely close. Like I think Drax was Tough Guy, which was kind of on the nose.
Yeah.
Groot, I know, was Quiet Joe.
Quiet Joe. Okay. All right.
Yeah, Quiet Joe. And I remember that because it was Groot's line that were the dead giveaway for me anyways. He just kept saying celery is good in the audition script over and over again. And I'm like, there's no way that this isn't Guardians. And auditioning, like I grew up with some of the comic books and certainly the like animated TV shows of like the late 80s into the 90s, like Spider-Man and like X-Men. The animated series of the 90s is one of my favorites, like all time. Yeah. It was so good. So I kind of grew up with that stuff. And then of course, like who hasn't been touched, if you're even a remote fan of Marvel, who hasn't touched the MCU? So like reading this, I was this like Quiet Joe, aka Groot, is like celery is good over and over again. I'm like, this has to be Guardians. This has to be Guardians. Oh my god. So, you to answer to circle back to your original question of like, what does that do? Like, I was just like, oh my god, I think this is Guardians. And then you just kind of,
are you playing it cool? Or do you burst out and let them know that you know?
No, you just play it cool. Because it is very shrouded in secrecy, so you don't want to even like write in an email that it's like, is this Guardians? Like you just kind of play it cool. Plus, it like professionally, if I was to say it like on tape. So for myself, I didn't even go into a room with other people to audition because I wasn't in the same city. So I put myself on tape. I did what we call it. It's just called a self tape. Which is essentially just recording the scene by yourself, and then you send it in. And then usually later on in the process, if they like you, they'll bring you in person. But luckily for me, they just kind of booked me right off my self tape, which is mind blowing to me because it's a Marvel project. Usually I would think you would jump through multiple hoops before they're like, yep, you got it.
That surprises me as well, particularly given the shoes that you are being asked to fill. Like you said, the MCU is everywhere. Everyone knows the MCU, and no doubt you were going to be compared to Chris Pratt and certainly the animated versions as well. Everything was going to get compared, put on a spreadsheet and seen, and they just called you right off the tape.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. That was it. Like I booked it. I was brought in to do, as I mentioned, that initial kind of proof of concept, which, by the way, for your viewers, interestingly enough, that proof of concept ended up making it into a game, into a scene that you might have completely missed. I don't know how much you want to dive into spoilers and stuff like that.
We're going spoilers. You spoil it. Let's hear it, guys.
No, so it's just a scene. I don't even have to tell you how the scene plays out, but there's a scene in nowhere in a place called Mantlow's Bar, with a character named Lipless. where we run into this character, and Lipless remembers Peter from years ago, and Peter
Mhm.
doesn't really remember him,
Mhm.
and he's like threatening to kill Peter if he like doesn't sing this song
I remember this.
with him from
Yeah.
that they had, and essentially they're kind of alluding to maybe kind of a messy night with probably too many drinks.
Mhm.
And so Peter has to kind of struggle his way through pleasing Lipless so he doesn't end up dead.
Mhm.
But that was the proof of concept scene, and they loved it so much that they're like, no, this has to be in the game somewhere. So it's not integral to the storyline. You can actually completely miss the scene if you're in nowhere and you just completely avoid the bar.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was that. I thought that was interesting that it ended up making it into the game. That was the first thing that we ever shot for Guardians.
Wow. Okay. That's wild. That's just a cool process, I guess,
Yeah,
Just
it's
just
a
to
nerve wracking process because it's kind of like, as a Marvel fan and as somebody who's grown up with these shows and the comics and the games, I was just we are just kind of sitting there waiting on that call, hoping you get it.
I would imagine so. Now, once you find out you have the role, do you do after the shock wears away, I would imagine fear sets in the sense of like, am I going to be derivative of the MCU? How do I find my own voice? Like, what kind of process did you go through in preparing your Star-Lord?
Yeah, I mean, sure, there's, I guess, a little bit of inherent, I don't know if fear's the right way to put it, but a sense of responsibility in a way. And as you said, like, I'm very cognizant of the fact that like Marvel fans are some of the greatest fans in the world, and they're very attached to these characters, whether they're attached to the comic book versions, whether they're attached to the MCU versions. So there is an inherent amount of what's the right word? Maybe it is fear. I don't know. I don't know if it's fear or not, but like that you're going to be immediately compared.
Mm-hmm.
But as a fan, I you just kind of got to buckle down and focus really, and I don't think I've ever taken anything more seriously in my life or handled anything with so much care in my life, because as a fan, I want to just as equally do these characters justice, because I know as a fan what I would be expecting, and they're beloved characters, and you don't really want to mess that up. You want to create something that people are going to be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
As far as preparation goes, I mean, we were very lucky to be told literally from day one during that proof of concept, once they finally said, even though I kind of knew that this is Guardians, they're like, listen, this is not to be the comic books. We do not want this to be the MCU. We want this to be, I'll coin the phrase, like, the video game universe of the Guardians. This is to be their own unique thing, unique story, unique take on the characters. So just kind of have fun and do your thing. And on that note, I avoided the comic books. I avoided going back to the MCU to draw inspiration from. And we were very lucky. And I've said this before, but I need to shout out the narrative team at Eidos, Mary DeMarle. She was the executive narrative director. I need to shout out her and her team, because they gave us this entire Bible, if you will, just tons of information on their version of the Guardians, their version of the characters, the world, what was happening. And so that's kind of what I dug into when approaching my version of Star-Lord.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And as you're going through and approaching your version, how many voices are you going through? How many voices are you trying out and thinking like, oh, that's good? And then do they give you notes on it?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of part of the early process of just kind of finding the character. And that was kind of part of the, again, that proof of concept phase when we were actually shooting it. We were very lucky. And again, I need to shout out the team, because Daryl Purdy, our cinematic and animation director, who was with us every step of the way, from that day one, was like, just have fun with it, just try different things. And like, personally, yeah, like at home, I would just sit here and try different things, different levels, just to kind of find them. I'm lucky because Star-Lord is the only kind of humanoid based character.
Mm-hmm.
so he has to sound like a human, obviously,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, most of it was kind of a lot of it on my own, and then I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do with it, and then it was just a matter of kind of tweaking that in the room as we were shooting, trying different things, kind of pitching different things. A lot of stuff happened on the day too. A lot of just kind of ad-libbing or fooling around on set and trying different things to make things either funny or more serious, and kind of finding his voice that way. And it was really interesting because there was a point in the project. I don't even know when I can't even remember when it was, but there's a point where it just kind of clicks,
Mhm.
and the preparation becomes less because the character becomes a part of you, and then it almost just kind of bleeds out of you every time you're in the room. It was a
Mhm.
really amazing thing to be a part of.
How often were you in the booth with your castmates? Because given that it's a team based kind
Hmm.
of superhero group, and you much of the game's writing capitalizes on that. A lot of times, you guys are riffing off one another.
Yeah.
Of course, also you're recording at least partially during a pandemic. How often did you get to be in the booth with them?
We were so lucky. I think we were together probably 99% of the time, like pretty much the entire time.
Wow.
Um, Unlike doing straight voice. So this wasn't just voice. This was voice. This was full facial capture and motion capture for the body as well. So all of the cinematics that you see, all of the cutscenes that you see in the game was certainly full performance. Full performance is what we call the combination of all of those things: the mocap, the voice, the facial. But then even things as you're walking around the game, all of the banters, you'll notice as you walk around the game, like the Guardians never ever shut up. They never stop talking.
I did
um,
notice that. Yeah.
yeah, so even if some of that we weren't doing full motion capture for, we were so lucky because typically you would go into a sound booth one by one on any given day and just kind of say the lines and not knowing how the other actors are relaying those lines back at you, just kind of essentially do 3 4 5 different takes of the line over and over and over again, and then they kind of pick and stitch it together. But we were very fortunate. Eidos was very adamant about having us together at all times so that we could maintain that group dynamic. And so even for those banter scripts, as we call them, to stuff walking around the world, we were always together in the same room and always able to feed directly off of each other. And I really do think it makes a world of difference. And I hope that it shows in the game because it was essentially 5 best friends hanging out all the time and just feeding off of each other. It was incredible.
That's amazing. Now, how much mocap was involved? Because I've seen pictures of you in mocap, and of course, one of the things that are
I'm sorry for that.
one of the things that's really cool about the game, though, is just how good the animations are, the facial expressions. I
Yeah.
mean, you are seeing emotions on each character's face. I mean, Drax comes to life despite intentionally being stoic. I mean,
Yeah.
you see Peter Quill go through the tumultuous emotions of what it means to lose his mother, or perhaps regain her and then fall in love or have a
Mhm.
child. All of those things are very heavy thoughts. uh, was that you the entire time? Was there a stunt double? Where's it come in there?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the cinematics and all of the, I guess, basic movement, you kind of got to break it down. So if you're looking at a lot of the, um, I guess, movement during some of the battles, like Star-Lord does some pretty funky stuff where he's kind of doing barrel roll flips and sliding on his knees and all that kind of stuff. That I got to give a shout out to a gentleman named Max Laferriere. He was Star-Lord's stunt double. So anything that was heavy stunt,
Hmm.
heavy flips, all that kind of stuff, that was Max Laferriere. But as far as walking, running, I did all of that, like all of the cut scenes. That's all me. Um, I'm trying to. It's hard because there's no definitive way to be in game being like, oh, that's me, that's Max, that's me, that's Max. But
Right.
I think as a general rule of thumb, if there's any major stunt that is like really crazy, especially like especially when you're in the middle of a battle and Star-Lord is flipping around and stuff like that. That was max. But everything aside from that stuff, I would guess this is probably a question for the animation team, but is me.
Cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. Did you find yourself enjoying the mocap process or kind of going through the animation process?
Oh yeah, it's incredible. I've said this before to other people. I kind of liken it. It's kind of a nice middle ground blend of what one would probably imagine theater to be like and film to
Mhm.
be like. In theater you've got a show and you're just go 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 for 2 hours. There's no cuts, there's no switching the camera around, there's no lighting to switch around, so you don't really get a break in that sense. It's no different in the motion capture space. You're in a big room that they call the volume. All of the cameras, they're infrared cameras. There's probably over 100 of them that just kind of line the walls of the room. They're already pre-set up, so there's no messing around with that. Um, and so when you're there, you're just there to work and you're just go, 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 go. So it's a bit of an actor's workout, if you will, but I love it. It's really freeing in a way as an actor to be able to just go in the room and because there's no downtime, you're always on. And again, because we were encouraged to just play and have fun, it really was a dream role and a dream process. It was insane.
That's wild. The the amount of riffing that you do with your team and that
Mhm.
you're getting to mocap in and out, how much was ad-libbed in that process versus the writing? And were you getting notes on with the writers like, hey, this didn't play out the way we thought, change it here? Was that happening?
Yeah, it was really nice because more often than not, people would come, especially Mary DeMarle again, the narrative director. She would be in the room with us, and it was really nice. It was again like we were really encouraged just to make them our own. And so, yeah, you stick to the script, but like if there was just something that kind of came to mind in the moment that you think would be funny if it's a comedic beat in the script, like we were encouraged to just do it. And so we would, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't, but that's all a process of figuring things out. But we were never shunned or shut down from trying different things and you know trying to make things funny or trying to make things more serious, whatever that may be. And Mary was always there, and Daryl, the director, was always there to let us know if something was landing properly, if it wasn't landing properly. And it was neat too because Mary's not the only writer on the team; it's a massive writing team, and so even members of her team would come in every now and then if they knew that we were shooting like any one person's scene on a given day. Like they were super open to just having people come in just to see how their characters were coming to life. It was really fun. And they really included us in the process, just by proxy of allowing us to try things, or if there were words that were like, I feel like Star-Lord would say this or Drax would say that, like they'd be like, yeah, try it out, see how it sounds, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It was really fun.
Was it was there ever, I don't know how to ask this, I guess. Were Was it, hey, your Star Lord
Mhm.
wouldn't say this, your Star Lord would say that, different than say your MCU counterparts or the like? Did that ever come up? Were there ever conversations in that sense?
Not really. Not really because again, like like being any version of the MCU or the comic books was never really part of the conversation because they had already told us like these are to be your own versions.
Mm-hmm.
So it was never a matter of like trying to emulate something in the MCU. So I would say no, that never came up just because it was never a focus. It was never like, oh, try to do that from the movies. It was never ever that. That was the only thing that was discouraged was stay away from the MCU, stay away from the comics, just focus on being you and making this character your own was pretty much the conversation.
That's cool. Like, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it was so
Quietly, I was
special,
worried
man.
about that. Yeah, you know?
What's that?
Guess I was quietly worried about that. Somehow, some way, it's like, all right, well, this one's popular. to people and they know him do that, that worried me, I guess, in some sense.
Yeah, like in one way it was incredibly freeing because it's like, okay, good, like I don't have to emulate anything that's been done before. I can just kind of be myself and do my thing. But on the flip side of that, it's like if people don't like what you've brought to the table, like especially with something like Marvel, like these are characters that a lot of people are passionate about, you know, it's a little nerve-wracking because when the game drops, you're just like eagerly awaiting, like, are people gonna like this? Are they gonna hate it? Am I gonna get crucified? Like,
I was worried when I first saw the character model because my own preconceptions of what Star-Lord was, who Star-Lord was, who it's all MCU or the animated series and who makes an appearance. So, I mean,
yeah,
with apologies, but also a bit of honesty, like I had the same feeling I had when I looked at, say, Avengers. I'm like, those aren't my characters. That's not my Iron Man. It's not my
yeah,
Star-Lord, my Rocket, etc.
of
How
course.
much of that did you run into? Did you hear about that?
Um, I mean, honestly, I I'm still even now, like months later, at a loss for words because the game dropped and it was the response was so much more than I could have ever anticipated. Because you're right. I mean, you can't not know. Like people have spent in some cases an entire lifetime getting to know one version of these characters.
It's
They
true.
really have, whether it's from the comic books, whether it's from the MCU. The MCU has been out for what, 20 years now, which is
Yeah.
kind of crazy
Yeah.
to think about. You know what I
2008.
mean? When
2008.
was
2008. Not 20
Okay,
years,
so not 20 years, not quite 20 years, but like
but a
that's
lot.
14, 15 years. Like
Yeah.
that's a long time to spend with characters that you've grown to come to know and love.
Mm-hmm.
And to have the response that we got from the game, like I can't if your fans are listeners, thank you guys so much. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like I'm still to this day completely blown away by how supportive that everyone has been, and I haven't really seen much of any negativity towards our versions of the characters. And it's a thank you to the fans. It's a thank you to the animation and the art team at Eidos for creating the physical look of these characters, and people really have loved them, and I'm so grateful for all of the support. It's been unreal, man. You have no idea.
That's cool. That's nice to hear. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
And it's uplifting. Now, let's go a bit more bigger picture here. Uh, I've mentioned Avengers. I'm an avid Avengers player, which gets me flack on occasion, but hey, hey. Is there any chance we see your Star-Lord showing up in other places? There's a moment in the game where the team is going through and they see other Marvel worlds or universes.
Yep.
Is there a chance we see your Star-Lord show up in any of the other games? And would you want it to?
I mean, if it was up to me, I mean, I would love to come back and reprise the role of Star-Lord. But the sad reality is after we're done work with Eidos on this game, we're kind of shut off from all of that. So it's not something we're privy to. You know what I mean? Like that would be a decision either at the Eidos level if they felt they wanted to do anything other, another game. That's probably a Marvel decision, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know too many people over on the Marvel side. Excuse me, my throat. If it was up to me, I would love to, but it's not a decision that it's well above my pay grade, as they say.
Sure. I guess that is to say, by this point, you've not been able to, you've not recorded lines for like DLC or had conversations about reprising the role yet.
No, we have no idea. I will say that I did get to. There is the Marvel Contest of Champions, the mobile game, and I got to go in and play Star-Lord for a little promotional clip that they were doing They do like a yearly. They do this really cool yearly CGI trailer, kind of as a tribute to all the ongoing players, and I think they're in like year 7 now. Of this game, and I got to go in and reprise Star-Lord for that, which was a lot of fun. I loved it.
Oh, cool. But you'd be up for it, right? Like if they said, hey, let's get Star-Lord in Avengers or something, you'd be there?
Oh, 100%, dude.
Nice.
100%.
That'd be
This
cool.
really, I mean, I will say this really was a dream come true. Dream come true. Wow, I'm losing my words. Um, Again, as somebody who grew up with Marvel and the comics and the TV shows and playing the games coming up as a kid, and to this day, I'm a huge gamer to this day.
Mhm.
Landing this was a dream come true. There's not much more I can say than that. So it would be an honor to have the opportunity to come back in any capacity.
Oh, man, and it would be exciting, I think, for us for a lot of reasons. I say us as gamers as well.
Yeah.
Um, you say you're a gamer.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want to know what you play and all, but we've mentioned Eidos a few times. They were just picked up by Embracer. Does
They
that give
were,
you
yeah.
pause at all on the gamer side? Does that give you pause, excitement? Where do you stand on those types of things?
I mean, I don't know what that looks like from a business standpoint. I honestly don't know, and I'm sure people are wondering, what does this mean for the franchise? The very basic answer is I don't know, because I don't know what those inner workings of those contracts, and there's IP ownership or all of that stuff. I have no idea. The only thing I will say is, like, I just want the best for everybody at Eidos. Like, that they really became a family over the last 4 years. I've formed some really good friendships over there, and the only thing I wish is the best for everybody there, everybody at Square, and of course their new family over at Embracer. Um, that's all I want for people, is just, I want them to be good and happy with what direction they're taking. It seems like it's a really exciting opportunity for them, so I'm stoked. So yeah.
I mean, selfishly on my end, I'm just hopeful that this is not the last we see of Guardians. This is not the last we see of the Avengers team, because superheroes can do so many great things for so many people. And
Yeah.
without a doubt, Guardians critically acclaimed, celebrated across a number of different mediums. And my hope is that that is recognized and allowed to continue forward for sure.
Oh, thank you, man. Keep your fingers crossed. Let's say that.
Well, has Star-Lord opened any doors for you otherwise in the industry?
Not quite yet. I mean, I'm still waiting for things to cool down, to be honest. Like, we've been doing a lot of virtual events and stuff like that. So I'm still kind of riding the wave of what this game has done. It's been kind of surreal, and I
Mhm.
got to go over to London, which was really fun. I was very honored to receive a nomination for a BAFTA awards, which are essentially the Oscars over there.
Mhm.
So that was a pretty crazy honor. I got to meet a whole bunch of really, really neat actors and developers from a lot of people's favorite games, people from like Resident Evil and Deathloop and Life is Strange True Colors, and met some people from the Microsoft team. I met the gentleman who's the creative director for Forza Horizon. He was a really
Oh
cool guy.
wow.
Yeah, I met tons of really, really cool people, and it yeah, I need to. It hasn't really opened any direct doors yet. Nobody's called me and be like, "Hey, you want to be in this game?"
Mhm.
Um, but I will say that I've never felt more excited and more blessed and honored to be a part of this industry, because all of those people that I met were super down to earth people, just excited and passionate about what they do, and those are the types of people that I look for, um,
Mhm.
because it makes a world of difference on a project when you're just working with people that love what they're doing and are super passionate. And that was my entire experience working on Guardians. So I'm super excited to see what is to come and who I get to work with. And I'm excited to get back into that mocap volume with, the spandex suit and the balls.
I'll have a selfish and probably unfair question for you. Is
Sure.
there a dream casting or team that you would like to work with that you've thought about?
Oh man, there's so many in the gaming. There's too many. Um, I mean, again, like, I would love to work with, again, we talked about this. I'm a huge Halo guy.
Mhm.
So I would love to work with anybody over at like 343 now, Bungie. If you go back to the OG Halo days, I would love to work with them. Anyone at the Coalition who does Gears, that's another one of my favorite franchise. oh God, Sony Santa Monica. Sorry, I know this is an Xbox podcast, but I'm a
No.
big God of War fan. They do some
Yes.
incredible things over there. Naughty Dog would be another one. Anybody, like, honestly, like, for me, it's I mean, there's so many studios. I'm trying to like go through all of them in my head. There's so many. Even the team at Deck Nine that made True Colors, like, incredible series. And I think as I'm going through my head and as an actor and somebody in this industry, I think what I'm always looking for is people who are just telling really great stories. I'm a big, when I game, I'm a big narrative driven story guy.
Mhm.
So anybody who's making games like that, it would be an honor to work with. You
That's
know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it would be surreal, I think, on my end if we could put onto your bio, Star Lord and Spartan. You know what I mean? Like that would be
Oh
really
man, that'd
cool.
be crazy.
You know?
Or Star Wars, Star Lord and Jedi was going to go the Star Wars route there. It's like a
Oh
Star
man,
Wars game would be a dream come true. There's tons of Star Wars games they just announced. That would be unreal. It's a matter of like, how do I find these people?
so the headline needs to be for whatever article is written: Star Lord wants to be a Jedi. That's
Yeah.
that's the line we're calling
Right?
comicbook.com,
Yeah.
and that's what we need to do. Star Lord wants to be a Jedi. We'll get him. We'll get him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
From
cool.
space pirate to Sith Lord.
Oh, even so, not a Jedi. You'd want to be a Sith Lord.
Dude, if it's Star, I would, not to sound desperate, I would take anything in a Star Wars game. It would just be so rad. You know what I
Beep, boop,
mean?
bleep. I'm BB9. There we go.
There you go. Beep, bop, boop. Exactly. It'd be so cool, man. But there is something to be said about playing, dark characters. They are a lot of fun to play.
Mm-hmm.
They really, really are. But there's tons of that stuff. Anything Star Wars I grew up with. There's so many games I grew up with that would just be. It would be a great honor to lend my talents to any number of games.
That's cool. That's cool. If you could play a DC hero, do you have a preference there?
Ooh, DC hero specifically.
Or villain? I'll throw
Or
villains in
villain.
there.
Okay. I'm trying to think. I always thought the Flash was a fun character. Flash would always be fun. I mean, obviously, I'm Batman would be a lot of fun. Like, like just do the Batman.
Do it again. Do it again. Say
Do
it
it
again.
again. I'll do my best Batman impersonation. Where is she?
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I'm vengeance.
Oh no, I talked over you. Say it again, please.
No, I'm vengeance.
That was good. I
Thank
liked
you.
it. I liked it.
Oh, there's so many, man. So many good DC characters, Marvel characters. Wolverine. Are you a Wolverine fan?
I am going to be as soon as Insomniac puts out that title.
Right?
I like Wolverine.
Right?
I've always liked Wolverine, but I grew up a DC kid, but never.
Oh, really?
Yeah, much like our banter about the PlayStation and such. I've always loved video games. I happen to cover Xbox, and that's where I tend to play, but I've loved games. So there's never an anti-PlayStation. I've loved PlayStation. And just the same, I grew up reading Green Lantern when Kyle Rayner was a hero.
So I was going to say, has anybody done, I don't think they've done that would be a cool game, a Green Lantern video game. I bet you they could do a lot with that.
There was a movie tie-in at one point, and it did what it did. But
with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't quite the same. But you're right. That would be a fantastic game.
I think they could do a lot with that. Ryan Reynolds is Canadian. I'm Canadian. I'm just saying, maybe.
I'm sure he'd love to talk to you about Green Lantern. He seems to really, really look back fondly on that memory too.
Yeah.
Oh man, this has been such a good time. I know you have a stream in a few minutes because you do stream regularly. What games are you playing over on your streaming channel?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a variety streamer, so I play a variety of games. I usually like to tackle 2 games at a time. I like to have at least one stream a week that I call Let's Go Retro, where we play a retro, some sort of retro game. So right now we're playing Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Cool.
That's my Let's Go retro game at the moment. And then my main game, I tend to dub that Gaming the Galaxy. And my main game right now is another Zelda-like, a game called Tunic. I'm not sure if you guys have played Tunic or not, but it is on Game Pass, since this is an Xbox podcast. And it is unreal. I don't know. Have you played it?
That is on my to play list. That's one. As soon as summer hits, I've got a list, and on it is Cyberpunk, Tunic, and there's one other that I've got, like, Trek to Yomi. Those are sitting in my queue, ready to go.
Nice. There's another company that I would love to sync up with, CD Projekt Red. That'd be really cool.
Oh man!
But dude, you got to play. If you don't mind me saying, it's forking amazing. Tunic, get it.
I get so giddy when you throw out lines like that. I get giddy.
I got to give you at least one flark,
Yeah, definitely.
No, it's a really good game. It's developed predominantly by like one guy, if I'm understanding correctly. I believe he went out for specific things like sound and stuff, but predominantly I think Tunic was developed by one guy over like the span of like 7 years, which is insane.
It's more amazing that happens, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's so it blows my mind, like the talent that people have in this world.
Yeah,
it's absolutely insane. But if you haven't played Tunic, definitely hop on it. It's really, really good. It's really punishing. Don't let the cute graphics deceive you.
Have you checked out Elden Ring yet?
I haven't. I've played about maybe an hour of it. I haven't really dove into it. You need to sit down and put some time into that game to really experience it. But I know Alex, who plays Rocket, he's been playing Elden Ring. He's really enjoying it.
It surprised me because I am not one for overly punishing games. And when you talk about Tunic, people, they bring up the line like it's Dark Souls-like.
Yes.
It's got elements, and they did the same for Death's Door, another great game. I don't know if you played that one.
I haven't. It's on my list, though. Apparently, it's amazing. Excuse me.
My impression is if you like Tunic, you'll like Death's Door and vice versa. But I can't speak to that personally.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard Death's Door is a really good, again, Souls-like, Zelda-like type game. So I'm sure it's right up my alley.
Yeah. It's. I enjoyed it greatly. I really had a lot of fun with it, and it was that experience that tells me like, all right, I'm gonna enjoy Tunic, even though it's not as friendly as its appearance shows it to be.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It. There's been a few moments where I've wanted to throw my controller.
Well, Jon, take a moment. Let people know where they can find you streaming, where they can find you on socials. And really in general, just how they can connect with you.
Oh my God. Yeah, I would love that. Thank you. If anybody wants to tune in, we have a wonderful community on Twitch and on Discord that I've affectionately called the Rough Cut Collective. You can find us on Twitch. It's just twitch.tv/Jon McLaren IRL. We also have a Discord if anybody wants to come hang out in there. That's kind of the official home of the Rough Cut Collective. I'd love to have you guys there. We're just chilling 24/7, having a good time over there. If you want to hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, I have all the regular socials are all just my name, Jon McLaren. Please give me a shout. Say hi.
There you go, man. Thank you so much for joining me on XEP, and in true fashion, thank you for helping make games and bringing superheroes to life, man.
Oh, thank you for having me, Luke. I mean that. That means the world to me is what I was trying to say. I still get speechless when people say nice things. It's weird.